My name is Orion, but most people used to call me Papa O. I'm 73 years old, and on what should have been a routine hospital stay, just a few tests, nothing serious, my entire family quietly disappeared. At first, I told myself they were busy. Then the calls stopped going through. Then the messages stayed unread. By the third night, I realized something far more painful than my illness was happening. My own children had decided I was no longer worth showing up for. I lay there listening to machines breathe for me, staring at a chair that stayed empty hour after hour, wondering how a man who spent his life providing could be abandoned so easily. And that's when it happened. A woman I had never seen before walked into my room, sat down beside my bed, and gently took my hand, like she'd done it 100 times before. She said my name, not the one on the chart, the one only family used. What she told me next explained why my children vanished, why no one wanted to be listed as my emergency contact, and why the truth had been kept from me for decades. I'm going to tell you what my family did, what they were hoping I'd never discover, and how a stranger in a hospital room changed the ending they had already planned for me. But before I begin, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from today? To everyone who keeps coming back and sharing their own stories, thank you. Your support reminds me I'm not alone. And if this is your first time here, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You're not just listening to stories. You're joining a place where silence is broken and truth finally has a voice. Now, let me tell you what really happened in that hospital room. The fall happened on a Tuesday morning. I was making coffee, just like I'd done every morning for 50 years, when my legs gave out. One moment I was standing at the counter, the next I was on the kitchen floor, pain shooting through my hip like electricity. The ambulance came. The paramedics were kind. They asked who they should call. I gave them Cyrus's number first, my oldest, the responsible one, CEO of his own firm. Always answers on the second ring. "We'll notify him, sir," they said. I believed them. At the hospital, they ran tests, x-rays, blood work. The doctor said I'd fractured my hip. Nothing life-threatening, but I'd need surgery and recovery time. He asked if someone was coming to sit with me. "My son's on his way," I said confidently. 6 hours passed. I told myself Cyrus was stuck in meetings. He runs a tight ship, can't always drop everything. So I called Julian, my second son, the architect, more flexible schedule, straight to voicemail. I tried Aaliyah next, my oldest daughter, a nurse, ironically. She'd understand the urgency. No answer. Then Cassia, my youngest, the one who used to call me every Sunday without fail. The phone rang 8 times before going to voicemail. I left messages, all of them cheerful, casual. "Hey, sweetheart, Dad here. I'm at Memorial Hospital, nothing serious, just need someone to bring me some clothes and maybe sit with me for a bit. Call me back." By evening, I'd sent 17 text messages across 4 children. Every single one showed as read. Not one response. The nurse came in around 8 o'clock with my medication. She had that look, the one healthcare workers develop when they've seen too much human cruelty disguised as family. "Mr. Orion, is there anyone else we can contact for you? A friend? A neighbor?" I opened my mouth to say yes, but the truth caught in my throat. I'd spent so much time building my career, raising my children, providing for everyone. I'd never actually built friendships, not real ones. The guys I played golf with were business connections. The people at church knew my face, but not my story. "They're just busy," I said. "They'll come tomorrow." She nodded, but her eyes said, "I've heard that before." That night, I couldn't sleep. The machines beeped steadily beside me. In the hallway, I could hear families visiting other patients. Laughter, conversations, the sound of people who mattered to someone. My phone sat on the rolling table beside me. Dark. Silent. I picked it up and scrolled through my contacts. Cyrus. Julian, Aaliyah, Cassia. 4 names I'd called more times in the past day than I had in the past year combined. When had I last called just to talk? Not to give advice or check on their progress or remind them of family obligations, but just to hear their voices? I couldn't remember. The shame hit me like a second fall. Had I become that father? The one they tolerated out of obligation? The one they'd been waiting to be free from? At 2:47 a.m. I tried one more time. I called Cyrus and let it ring until his voicemail picked up. "Son, it's Dad. I know you're busy. I know I probably ask too much sometimes. But I'm scared. I'm in this hospital room alone and I don't understand why nobody's coming. Did I do something wrong? Please, just call me back. Please." I hung up. The message stayed unread. By the 3rd day, something inside me broke. The nurses stopped asking about my family. They brought me extra blankets without being asked. One of them, a young woman named Maria, stayed 10 minutes past her break to help me eat breakfast because my hands were shaking too badly to hold the spoon. "Thank you," I whispered. "Of course," she said gently. Then, quieter, "You deserve better than this." I wanted to argue, to defend my children, to explain that they were good people, successful people, that I'd raised them right. But how do you defend people who won't even answer the phone? That afternoon, the doctor came by with paperwork for my surgery. "We need an emergency contact," he said, "someone who can make medical decisions if—" "I know," I interrupted. "It's Cyrus Montgomery, my son." The doctor hesitated. "Mr. Orion, we've tried calling him multiple times. He's not responding. We need someone who will actually—" "He'll respond," I said, my voice harder than I intended. "Just keep trying." The doctor left. And I sat there in that bed, the truth settling over me like a weight I couldn't lift. My children weren't busy. They were avoiding me. And I didn't know why. Night came again. My 4th night alone. I'd given up calling. Given up hoping. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how a man's entire life could shrink down to this. A hospital bed, a silent phone, and the devastating realization that nobody was coming. That's when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, stopping outside my door. I turned my head. A woman stood in the doorway, mid-50s maybe, dark hair pulled back, kind eyes that somehow looked sad and determined at the same time. She held a folder under one arm. She wasn't a nurse, wasn't a doctor. "Mr. Orion," she said softly, "my name is Alara." I blinked. "Do I know you?" "No," she said, stepping inside. "But I know you, and I know why your children aren't here." My heart stopped. She walked to the chair beside my bed, the chair that had sat empty for 4 days, and sat down. Then she did something that made my throat tight. She reached out and took my hand. Not like a stranger, like someone who understood. "What I'm about to tell you," Alara said quietly, "is going to hurt. But you need to hear it, because your family has been keeping a secret, and that secret is the reason you're sitting in this room alone." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She opened the folder, and everything I thought I knew about my life began to crumble. "Stop. Right there. Before you hear what's in that folder, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because what Alara reveals next will rewrite everything you think you know about this family. And trust me, the truth is darker and more complicated than abandonment. If you think you figured out why his children disappeared, you haven't. Not even close. Subscribe now, because the secret she's about to reveal has been buried for 30 years, and it's about to destroy everything. Alara didn't ask permission. She sat in that chair, opened the folder, and pulled out a photograph. My stomach dropped. It was me, 30 years younger, standing outside a restaurant I hadn't thought about in decades. And beside me, smiling, her hand on my arm, was a woman who wasn't my wife. Her name was Kalina, Alara said softly, watching my face. My mouth went dry. How did you— Your daughter Cassia hired me 6 months ago, Alara said. She's a private investigator. She asked me to find out the truth about something her mother wrote in a diary before she died. The room tilted. My wife, God rest her, died 2 years ago. Cancer. I'd grieved. We all had. But she'd never said anything about— What did the diary say? My voice came out as a whisper. Alara pulled out another paper, handwritten, my wife's handwriting. Orion told me about the affair today. He cried, said it was over, said he'd ended it and taken care of everything. I want to forgive him. I want to believe people make mistakes. But something in his voice felt wrong, like he wasn't just confessing, like he was hiding something worse. Tears burned my eyes. You told your wife about Kalina, Alara said, but you didn't tell her everything, did you? I couldn't answer. Alara pulled out more documents, bank statements from 1993, a withdrawal for $50,000, a legal document, an NDA, signed by Kalina Hart. You paid her to disappear, Alara said, her voice steady but heavy with judgment, because she was pregnant. The words hit me like a fist. My voice broke. I couldn't. You had an affair with a colleague, Alara continued, relentless now. She got pregnant. You panicked. So you paid her $50,000 to leave the state, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and never contact you or your family again. I wanted to defend myself, to explain, to say it was more complicated than that. But it wasn't. Kalina moved to Oregon, Alara said. She had the baby, a boy. She named him Knox. Knox. The name sounded foreign, impossible. She raised him alone, Alara continued, worked 3 jobs, did everything she could, and when Knox was 16 and needed surgery, an emergency appendectomy that insurance wouldn't fully cover, she reached out to you. I remembered. God help me. I remembered. A phone call, late at night, a number I didn't recognize. Kalina's voice, older but still familiar. Orion, please, I'm not asking for me. It's for our son. He's sick. I need help. I changed my number the next day. You ignored her, Alara said, and she figured it out. She never contacted you again. The machines beeped around me, steady, constant, reminding me I was still alive when I wanted to disappear. Knox grew up, Alara said. Smart kid, got a scholarship, became a social worker. He spent years helping families in crisis, probably because he understood what it felt like to be abandoned. She pulled out another photo. A young man, late 20s, dark hair, my eyes, my son. 8 months ago, Alara said, Knox's mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She had weeks, maybe a month. She made Knox promise something before she died. What? The word barely escaped. She made him promise to find his siblings, to meet them. She said they deserved to know they had a brother. She said secrets eat families alive. Alara's eyes met mine. So Knox found them. He showed up at Cyrus's office with DNA results, birth certificates, everything. He wasn't angry. He didn't demand anything. He just wanted to meet the family he'd never known. My chest felt like it was caving in. Your children didn't believe him at first, Alara continued. So they hired me. To verify everything. To make sure this wasn't some scam. And, I whispered, and it was all true, Alara said. Every word. Knox is your son. Kalina raised him alone. And 3 weeks ago, she died. The air left my lungs. Your children went to her funeral, Alara said quietly. All 4 of them. They met Knox properly, heard stories about their brother's childhood, learned what their father had done. And they decided, she finished, that the man who abandoned his own child didn't deserve to have them sit beside his hospital bed. Silence, the kind that crushes. They're not heartless, Alara said, her voice softer now. They're devastated, confused, Angry. They don't know how to reconcile the father who raised them with the man who erased a child from existence. She stood, gathering her papers. Knox didn't want me to come here, she said. He said you weren't worth it. But Cassia asked me to. She said you deserve to know why you're alone. She said maybe, understanding would change something. Alara walked toward the door, then paused. Your children are with Knox right now, at a diner 2 miles from here. They're trying to figure out if you're someone they can still love, or someone they need to let go. Wait, I choked out. Please, how do I fix this? Alara turned back. Her expression was sad, tired. I don't know if you can, she said honestly. But if you want a chance, you need to stop hiding, stop making excuses, and you need to face the son you threw away. She left, and I was alone again. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It was full of ghosts. After Alara left, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just lay there in the dark, staring at that photograph she'd left on the table. Knox. My son. The boy I'd paid to disappear. He had my eyes, my jawline, the same way my hair used to fall before it went gray. How many times had he looked in the mirror and seen me staring back? How many times had he wondered why I didn't want him? By morning, a nurse brought breakfast. I couldn't eat. She asked if I was feeling worse. I told her I was fine. The truth was, I felt like I was dying from the inside out. Around 10 o'clock, my phone buzzed. My hand shook as I picked it up. A text. From Cyrus. Dad, Knox showed us everything. The payments, the NDA, the phone call when his mom was dying. Mom never knew about the baby, did she? You let her die thinking it was just an affair. We need time. Don't call any of us. Then, Aaliyah. How could you do this? We had a brother. He needed us and you hid him. You let him grow up thinking he wasn't wanted. I don't know who you are anymore. Julian's message was shorter, sharper. I'm ashamed to be your son. And finally, Cassia. Knox's mother died asking for you, hoping you'd come. You never did. We're with him now, where you should have been 30 years ago. Each message felt like a knife. I wanted to respond, to explain, to beg. But what could I say? I was scared. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back 30 years. Sorry doesn't raise a child. Sorry doesn't sit beside a dying woman and tell her she mattered. I put the phone down, and that's when I heard footsteps. Different from Alara's. Heavier. Deliberate. The door opened, and he walked in. Knox. Tall. Mid-20s but with eyes that looked older. Tired. He wore jeans and a simple black jacket. His hands were in his pockets. He didn't look angry. He looked empty. Like he'd used up all his emotions years ago and had nothing left. "Hello, Orion," he said. Not Dad. Not even Mr. Montgomery. Just Orion. Like I was a stranger. I guess I was. "Knox." My voice cracked. Don't." He held up a hand. "I didn't come here for your apologies. I came because I wanted to see you with my own eyes. The man who erased me." He stepped closer, studying me like I was an exhibit in a museum. "You're smaller than I imagined," he said quietly. "Mom always described you as larger than life. Successful. Confident. I guess she remembered you differently." I tried to speak, but my throat closed. Knox pulled a chair over and sat down. Not close, but not far either. "Do you want to know what it was like?" he asked. "Growing up as your secret?" I nodded, tears already falling. "I didn't have a dad," Knox said simply. "Other kids did. They had someone to teach them how to ride a bike, how to throw a ball, how to fix things. I had Mom, and she was everything, but she was exhausted, always working, always worried about money." He looked at his hands. "When I was 10, I asked her why my dad wasn't around. She said you had another family, that you'd made a choice, She didn't say you were a bad man. She just said you were scared." Knox's jaw tightened. I spent years trying to understand that. How fear could make someone abandon their own kid. I thought maybe you didn't know I existed, that Mom never told you. He looked up at me. But then I found the NDA, the payment records, the phone call logs from when I was 16 and needed surgery. His voice dropped. "You knew. You always knew. And you chose to pretend I didn't exist." "Knox, please," I choked out. "I was young. I was stupid. I thought—" "You thought it would go away," Knox interrupted. "You thought if you paid enough money and signed enough papers you could erase a human being. Make it like I never happened." He stood up. "But here's the thing, Orion. I did happen. I grew up. I became a person. And now your other children, my siblings, they know about me. They know what you did." Knox pulled out his phone and showed me a website. My stomach dropped. It was a blog, anonymous, but detailed. The Children of Convenience, when family becomes a transaction. There were posts, dozens of them, about affairs, about payoffs, about men who abandoned children to protect their reputations. "I've been documenting everything," Knox said. "Your affair, the $50,000, the NDA, how you changed your number when Mom begged for help. It's all here, names removed, for now." My heart pounded. "What do you want?" I whispered. "Money. I'll give you whatever—" "I don't want your money," Knox said coldly. "I'm fine. I have a career, a life. I don't need anything from you." "Then what?" I begged. "What do you want from me?" Knox leaned down, his face inches from mine. "I want you to feel what I felt," he said quietly. "Invisible. Forgotten. Like you don't matter to the people who are supposed to love you." He straightened. "Your children are torn apart right now. They love you. They hate you. They don't know what to do. And that's exactly where I want you, trapped between the family you kept and the son you threw away." Knox walked toward the door. "Enjoy the silence, Orion," he said. "You paid $50,000 for it. Might as well get your money's worth." The door closed, and I was alone again. But this time, I understood. This wasn't abandonment. This was revenge. 2 days passed. 2 days of silence. No calls, no texts, no visitors except nurses who looked at me with pity. I tried calling my children again. Every number went straight to voicemail. I thought about Knox's words. Enjoy the silence. This is what he wanted. To make me invisible. To let me know how it felt. And it was working. On the third day, my phone buzzed. A text from Cassia. "We're coming to see you, all of us, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Be ready to talk." That was it. No warmth, no reassurance. Just a meeting. Like I was a business problem they needed to solve. I didn't sleep that night either. By the time 2 o'clock came, I'd rehearsed 100 different speeches in my head. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please forgive me." But when the door opened and they walked in, Cyrus, Julian, Aaliyah, Cassia, all 4 of them together, all my words died. Because Knox walked in behind them. They stood in a line at the foot of my bed, my 4 children, and the son I'd abandoned. 5 of them, looking at me like I was on trial. Cyrus spoke first. His voice was controlled, professional, the tone he used in boardrooms. "We've been talking," he said, "a lot, and we need you to understand something." I nodded, unable to speak. "When Knox first came to us, we didn't believe him," Cyrus continued. "We thought he was lying, trying to scam us. So we investigated. We hired Alara. We verified everything." Aaliyah stepped forward, her eyes red from crying. "And it was all true," she said, her voice breaking. "Every word. You had a son. You paid his mother to disappear. You pretended he didn't exist for 30 years. Julian's hands were clenched into fists. We wanted to cut you out of our lives completely, he said. We talked about never speaking to you again, just letting you sit here alone until you figured it out yourself. My chest tightened. But Knox stopped us, Cassia said softly. I looked at Knox. He stood apart from his siblings, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He said something that made us pause, Aaliyah continued. Tell him, Knox. Knox's jaw tightened. He didn't want to speak, but finally he did. I said, his voice was rough, my mother never stopped loving you, even after everything, even when she was dying. Tears spilled down my face. She told me you were a coward, Knox continued, but not a monster. She said people make terrible choices when they're afraid. She said destroying you out of hate would make me just like you, someone who hurts people to protect himself. He looked away. I didn't understand it. I still don't. But she made me promise not to destroy you. She said that wasn't justice. It was just more pain. The room was silent except for the machines beeping steadily beside me. Julian spoke next, his voice thick with emotion. I've been angry at you for years, Dad. Even before Knox, you were so demanding, so perfect. I always felt like I could never measure up, like I was never good enough. Cyrus added, you taught us that success meant never showing weakness, never admitting mistakes, and look where it got you, lying here alone because you were too proud to be human. Aaliyah wiped her eyes. I loved you so much, she whispered. You were my hero, and now I don't even know if I know you at all. Then Cassia stepped forward. I need to tell everyone something, she said. Something I haven't been honest about. Everyone turned, my heart pounded. I didn't just hire Alara 6 months ago, Cassia said, her voice shaking. I hired her 3 years ago. Silence. When Mom died, I found her diary, Cassia continued. She wrote about the affair, about how you cried when you confessed, how you said you'd taken care of it. She looked at me, tears streaming. I needed to know what that meant, so I started searching, and I found Knox. Knox's eyes widened. You knew about me for 3 years? Cassia nodded, crying openly now. I didn't know what to do, she said. I wanted to hate you, Knox. I wanted you to be awful, so I could justify what Dad did. But when I found you, she looked at Knox. You were kind and hurt, and you deserved to know your family. But I was scared of what it would do to us. So I watched you from a distance. I saw how you helped people, how you took care of your mom when she got sick. Cassia turned back to me, and then Mom died. And you still didn't tell us. You had 3 years to come clean, Dad. 3 years, but you stayed silent. So I told them, she finished. I told Cyrus, Julian, and Aaliyah everything, and we agreed. Knox deserved to meet us, to be part of this family. But you, her voice hardened, you had to face what you'd done. I couldn't breathe. So here's what happens now, Cyrus said, stepping forward. Knox has a proposal, and we've all agreed to it. Knox finally moved. He stepped closer to my bed. I don't want to destroy you, he said quietly. My mother wouldn't want that, but I need you to understand what you took from me, from her, from all of us. He pulled out a piece of paper. You're going to do 3 things, Knox said. First, you're going to set up a fund, in my mother's name, for single parents who need help, medical care, education, child care, whatever they need. I nodded immediately. Yes, anything. Second, Knox continued, you're going to manage it personally. Meet the families, hear their stories, understand what my mother went through every single day. I will, I whispered. And third, Knox's voice was steady. You're going to show up for every family dinner, every birthday, every holiday. Not as the head of the family, as an equal. You'll sit next to me, and you'll remember what you almost lost. He held out the paper. Sign this. Agree to these terms. Or we all walk out right now, and you never hear from any of us again." My hands shook as I took the paper. It wasn't a legal document. It was handwritten, a promise. I looked at my children, all 5 of them, and realized this was my only chance. "I'll sign," I said. "I'll do all of it. I swear." Knox handed me a pen. I signed my name, and for the first time in days, I saw something in Knox's eyes that wasn't anger. It was something softer, something that looked almost like hope. He signed. "But here's what you need to understand. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Because Knox's plan has one more layer that nobody sees coming, not even his siblings." The next chapter reveals the truth about what Knox has been hiding, why he really tracked down his father, and the one condition that could either heal this family or tear it apart forever. If you've made it this far, you cannot miss what happens next. Subscribe and turn on all notifications right now, because the next chapter changes everything you thought you knew about revenge, forgiveness, and what family really means. Don't make me beg. Just hit that button. You'll thank me later. 3 weeks later, I was released from the hospital. My hip was healing slowly, but my heart felt like it had been shattered and glued back together with shaky hands. Knox arranged for me to stay at a rehabilitation center. He paid for it, refused to let me refuse. "Consider it back payment," he said, "with interest." I didn't argue. My children visited. Not every day, not all at once, but they came. Julian brought his kids, my grandchildren. They were cautious at first, unsure of this grandfather who suddenly seemed different, smaller, more human. Aaliyah sat with me for hours, asking questions I'd been avoiding for 30 years. "Did you ever think about him? Did you wonder what he looked like? What kind of person he became?" I told her the truth. "Every birthday," I said, "every Christmas, every time I held one of you, I thought about the child I'd thrown away. And I told myself I'd made the right choice, because admitting I was wrong would mean facing what I'd done." She cried. So did I. Cyrus came with the legal documents for the fund. We named it the Kalina Hart Foundation. "Knox wants you involved in every decision," Cyrus said. "He wants you to meet every family, hear every story." "I will," I promised. Cassia visited the most. She brought photos of Knox's childhood that Kalina had kept, school pictures, birthday parties where Knox stood alone with his mother, no father in sight. "She loved you," Cassia said softly, showing me a photo of Kalina holding infant Knox. "Even after everything, she told Knox you were a good man who made a bad choice." "She was wrong," I said. "I wasn't a good man. I was a coward." "Then don't be one anymore," Cassia replied. But it was Knox's visits that surprised me most. He came twice a week, never stayed long, never said much, but he came. One afternoon, he arrived with a box. "These were Mom's things," he said, setting it on the table. "Letters, photos. I thought you might want to see who she became." My hands trembled as I opened it. Kalina had been beautiful, successful. She'd become a social worker, dedicated her life to helping at-risk youth. There were awards, commendations, photos of her with the families she'd helped. She'd never remarried. At the bottom of the box was an envelope, addressed to me, dated 2 months before she died. "She wrote that a week before she passed," Knox said quietly. "She never sent it. I found it in her things." I opened it with shaking hands. "Orion, I'm not writing this for you to read. I'm writing it because Knox asked me to explain why I never came after you, why I didn't sue you, expose you, make you suffer the way you made us suffer. The truth? I loved you once, truly. And I loved the child we made more than I've ever loved anything in my life. I didn't want his story to be about revenge or bitterness. I wanted him to grow up knowing he was wanted, even if you didn't want him. I wanted him to see that one parent's love could be enough. I hope you found happiness, Orion. I hope your children are everything to you. And I hope, someday, you tell them the truth, because secrets eat families alive from the inside. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger would have destroyed me the way fear destroyed you. Give Knox the family I couldn't. That's all I ask. Kalina. I couldn't see through my tears. Your mother was a better person than I'll ever be, I told Knox. I know, he said simply. Then he sat down. Really sat down, not keeping his distance like usual. I need to tell you something, Knox said. Something I haven't told anyone, not even Cyrus or the others. My heart pounded. When I first found out about you, about my siblings, I didn't want to meet them to build a family, Knox said slowly. I wanted to meet them to destroy yours. I went cold. I spent a year planning it, Knox continued. I documented everything. Built that blog, gathered evidence. I was going to expose you publicly, ruin your reputation, make sure everyone knew what kind of man you were. He looked at his hands. But then I met them. Cassia first. She'd been watching me, and I didn't know. When she finally approached me, I was angry. But then she told me about your wife, about how she'd died not knowing I existed, about how my siblings had grown up with a father who was present but emotionally absent. Knox's voice cracked. I realized something. You didn't just abandon me. You abandoned all of us. You were physically there for them, but you were never really there. You were too busy running from your past to be present in your present. He looked up at me. So I changed the plan. Instead of destroying you, I decided to give you one chance, one opportunity to become the father you should have been, not just to me, but to all of us. Why? I whispered. Why give me a chance at all? Knox's eyes were wet. Because my mother asked me to, he said. Her last words to me were, give him a chance to be better. Not for him, for you, for your siblings, for the family you all deserve. He stood up. So that's what I'm doing. But understand this, Orion. This is your only chance. You mess this up, you hide again, you hurt any of them. His voice hardened. I won't be merciful twice. Knox walked to the door, then paused. Family dinner is Sunday, he said. Cyrus's house, 3 o'clock. Don't be late. He left, and I sat there holding Kalina's letter, understanding finally what grace really meant. It wasn't getting what you deserved. It was getting a chance you didn't earn. Sunday came too quickly. I stood outside Cyrus's house at 2:55, my hands shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Through the window, I could see them, all 5 of them, my children, setting the table together. Knox said something that made Aaliyah laugh. Cassia bumped him with her hip playfully. Julian was helping Cyrus in the kitchen. They looked like a family I'd almost destroyed. I knocked. The door opened. It was Knox. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then he stepped aside. Come in, Orion, he said. Not Dad, but not cold either. Just a beginning. I walked in. The house smelled like roast chicken and fresh bread. Kids, my grandchildren, were playing in the living room. They looked up when I entered, curious but not afraid. Everyone, Knox called out. He's here. They came into the entryway. All of them. Cyrus, Julian, Aaliyah, Cassia. No one rushed to hug me. No one pretended everything was fine. But Cassia stepped forward and took my hand. Welcome, she said softly. We're glad you came. Dinner was awkward at first. I sat at the table between Knox and Aaliyah. Not at the head, not in charge, just there. We passed food, made small talk. The kids asked me questions about my childhood, and I answered honestly, even the parts that weren't heroic. Then Cyrus cleared his throat. I want to say something, he announced, to all of us. Everyone went quiet. This family almost broke, Cyrus said, because of secrets, because of pride, because we were all too scared to tell the truth. He looked at me. Dad, you made a terrible choice 30 years ago. You hurt people. You ran from responsibility, and we're still dealing with the consequences." I nodded, tears already falling. "But," Cyrus continued, "I've made mistakes too. I've been so focused on being successful that I forgot to be present. I haven't called you just to talk in years. None of us have." Julian spoke up. "We all played a part in the distance. We assumed you'd always be there, so we stopped showing up." Aaliyah added, "And when Knox told us the truth, our first instinct wasn't to heal. It was to punish, to make you feel as abandoned as he did." Cassia looked at Knox. "But Knox taught us something. That revenge doesn't heal wounds. It just creates more." Knox shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't used to being praised. "So, here's what we've decided," Cyrus said. "We're going to rebuild this family. Not the one we had. That one was broken. A new one. Where we tell the truth. Where we show up. Where we choose each other every single day." He raised his glass. "To second chances. To painful truths. And to Knox. For teaching us that family isn't just about blood. It's about choosing to stay even when it's hard." Everyone raised their glasses, including Knox, including me. We ate, we talked, and slowly the tension melted. After dinner, Knox and I ended up on the back porch. Alone. "Thank you," I said, "for giving me this." Knox nodded. "Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. You've got a lot of work to do." "I know," I said, "and I will. Every day, for the rest of my life." Knox was quiet for a moment. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, he said, "She would have liked this. Mom, she would have liked seeing us all together." My throat tightened. "I wish I could tell her I'm sorry." "She knows," Knox said. "Somehow, I think she knows." We stood there in the fading light, and I realized something profound. Knox hadn't just given me a second chance. He'd given himself one, too. A chance to have the family his mother always wanted for him. 3 months later, I'm 74 now. Every Sunday, we have family dinner. Sometimes at Cyrus's, sometimes at Aaliyah's. Once at Knox's apartment, small but full of photos of Kalina. I run the Kalina Heart Foundation personally. I've met dozens of single parents, heard their stories, helped where I could. Every time I meet a struggling mother, I see Kalina, and I make sure she's not alone. Knox and I aren't close. Not yet. Maybe we never will be. But he sits beside me at dinner, passes me the bread without me asking. Once he called me by my first name without the edge of anger. It's enough. My children didn't abandon me in that hospital. They saved me. Knox didn't destroy me. He gave me a chance to become the man I should have been all along. Revenge, I've learned, isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about holding up a mirror and forcing someone to finally see themselves. And then, if you're brave enough, if grace is strong enough, giving them a chance to change. I'm not the father I was. I'm not even the father I thought I was. But I'm trying to be the father they deserve. And for the first time in 74 years, I'm not alone. This is what real redemption looks like. Messy, painful, imperfect, but possible. If this story moved you, if it made you think about your own family, your own secrets, your own second chances, then share this. Leave a comment telling me, could you forgive like Knox did? Could you change like Orion did? Your story matters. And, hey, subscribe if you haven't yet. Because next week I'm bringing you something completely different. A mother who disappeared for 15 years, and the daughter who found her living a secret life 3 states away. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, it's never too late to choose family. See you next time.